You're listening to the Visibly Fit Podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Visibly Fit. I'm your host, Wendie Pett. Are you in pain? Well, 1 out of 2 people are dealing with back pain. And a few episodes ago, I had my own back pain. And I have someone here with us today that you are going to be blessed by hearing his expertise and the way in which he goes about healing his patients with his techniques. But I'm going to share a little bit about his bio here. Rick Olderman is his name. He graduated from physical therapy school back in 1996. And after failing to help his patients adequately, he realized that standard physical therapy education left him unprepared to truly help people with the chronic pain or nagging injuries that his patients were dealing with. And as a result, Rick has spent the last 20 years developing his pioneering approach. Shortly after Rick took over a small physical therapy clinic, he's out in Denver, Colorado. Back in 2012, his business grew very rapidly due to word of mouth and referrals and physicians seeing his rapid and lasting results for their most difficult patients. Body and balance physical therapy has become the clinic to recover from painful injuries. He has trained all his therapists in his revolutionary approach to fixing pain and has sought out for help around the world. And it keeps going on. His bio is thick, but I just want to share one more thing, and we're going to let him come in and share a little bit about his story. But one of the driving forces, this is part of his story, behind Rick's search for answers was his own chronic back pain, which began before he attended school. Not finding the answers in a PT school, Pilates, personal training, or yoga, Rick realized a fundamental element connecting movement, structure, and pain was missing from most of the disciplines. He has dedicated these past 2 decades to unravel the secrets about how the body works to create and eliminate pain. He has distilled his discoveries down to a very simple system anyone can follow. And he has a new book out called Solving the Pain Puzzle. But I'm going to bring in Rick Olderman now to this episode of Visibly Fit. And we're going to just kind of dive in and hear his passion and why he's doing what he's doing and get some A's around this chronic pain issue that so many people are really dealing with. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Wendie. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. This is fantastic. So, okay, it all started, which I get it. My journey with doing what I do started with my own injury. But let's talk about you and your back pain and kind of what led you down this trail of wanting to figure out just the secret and how to unravel this mystery of pain.
Yeah, well, it was my first job after PT school that really dictated all of this, because I was great with, acute problems, tears, strains, post-surgeries, things like that. But when it came to anything chronic pain, my patients were not getting better. And I was sunk into a deep depression because of it, because I just felt like, hey, I spent all this time and money learning to do this. And I think this is what I wanted to be doing, yet I'm terrible at it. And I was just like feeling terrible. And then what I eventually, that first job was in rural Colorado. And I was basically the only physical therapist there. And then I moved to Denver later, and I went to work at a elite downtown health clinic there. And my schedule instantly filled with people with chronic pain. And these were, people in their 20s to 60s, well off, had access to all the top tier, health care here in Denver, lots of athletes here, and no one could solve their pain. I'm thinking, holy smokes, it's not just me, it's medicine and fitness in general doesn't understand how to address chronic pain. So that's what kind of got me kickstarted to realize I've got to figure this out, because I can't exist as a PT like this. I've got to help these people.
Yeah. And I love your heart behind it. You just want to help people get better, and you want to get better yourself, but you wanted to unravel this mystery of pain. And I've talked about this before, but I want you to share the difference between acute and chronic pain, because some people may think their acute pain is chronic. It might just be irritating, but let's talk a little bit about that. And then we'll dive in more.
Yeah, well, somebody somewhere said, well, the 3-month mark is the magic division between acute and chronic pain. So if you're before 3 months, then it's acute. And if you're after 3 months, it's chronic. So if you've had pain for 2 months and 3 weeks, I'm sorry, you don't have chronic pain yet. And none of this information applies to you. So, but one of the interesting things that came out in one of the podcasts I was on is this, chronic pain. It might help to think, because you kind of struck on it in a nutshell there, Wendie, is that chronic pain is really acute pain that continues to happen again and again and again. And so if we solve that issue, chronic pain will go away very rapidly. Yes. So it's not like there's like chronic pain, your nerves are built differently for chronic pain than acute pain, or your muscles are acting differently for a chronic pain versus acute pain. It's that you haven't resolved the initial insult. That's why it's chronic.
That's right. That's right.
So pain is a teacher in that case.
Isn't it though? Oh my goodness. It is a teacher indeed. And sometimes we put ourself in those situations to experience pain. So it can be our teacher, which is interesting. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. I'm just thinking more psychologically and all kinds of things. But you have written a book, and it's Solving the Pain Puzzle. And I think so many people it is a puzzle for so many people. It's like, okay, one doctor told me this, and one physical therapy told me this, it's confusing. It can be overwhelming. And it's like, just give me the solution. And unfortunately, some people want the quick fix solution because they just want to be out of pain. I have a friend that just had to undergo some back surgery and just left the hospital, but it was grueling because they couldn't get a handle on her pain. And just the pain management side of things, and how that can lead to addiction of pain meds, and the list goes on and on. But your whole idea is, let's not do this with obviously surgeries are one thing, but the idea is not to have surgery and not to have to go down the route of having medication. So how do you go about doing this? What is this puzzle that you are putting together that people can follow suit with and live a pain-free life?
Yeah. So first of all, I wrote 6 books about 10 or 15 years ago. And they're all called under the Fixing You series. And they're addressing different chronic pain. And so over the years, I've had lots of Zoom sessions with people to help them, coach them through the books. And then I purchased my own clinic for 10 years and saw that really a lot of this stuff is happening in patterns. And one of the reasons why we don't do well in medicine is because of our training. And our training is really about identifying specific tissues that are damaged. So we have lots of scans and tests to say, oh, it's this one tissue that is the problem. That's what's damaged. But there's no test in medicine that says why that tissue is damaged. Mm-hmm. And that's what I believe is missing. And that's why chronic pain occurs, is because we're not addressing the whys behind the tissue damage. We're just, like you said, that you go to one doctor, you get this treatment, a physical therapist, another, and so forth. And they're all looking at specific tissues to treat, rather than looking at your body from a system standpoint and understanding that how you're using your body is what's causing stress to these issues. Yeah. And so where I was going with my clinic is that I've learned that a lot of these things that might cause back pain in you, Wendie, would cause SI joint pain in another, or sciatic nerve pain in another, or hip pain in another. And so it's just the manifestation of the same pattern that seems to be different in different people based on your exercise history, your work history, your genetics, all sorts of things. So that made it a lot simpler to solve chronic pain, because all I have to do is look for the pattern that's occurring, solve the pattern, and we're done.
Yeah, that's so good. And you're right, Rick. I mean, I think most practitioners are looking for the weakest area, the weakest link area, but it's all the weak areas around the weakest link area, right? So so that's so good. And yeah, you talked about my back pain, and before the show we were kind of dialoguing, and I was like, yeah, that week I was actually sitting a lot more, and I'm like, duh, hip flexors. And I mean, the average person, sits what, 10 hours a day or something. I actually think it's more than that, unbelievably, but that's what they say. If you are to Google it, do the Google, but I think it's more than that. I mean, with all the, sitting in your car to get to work, and then sitting at work, and then coming home and watching TV, and the way that the typical average American operates, we are meant to move, right? And so let's talk a little bit about your take on movement, and what you encourage your patients to do for movement.
Yeah, so I'll qualify your last comment. We are meant to move, but we're meant to move well.
Yes.
And if we're not moving well, that's the problem.
Mm.
And so when we don't move well, that causes muscles to become tighter or weaker. And that's when that's when strain starts to occur. And so
with overcompensation, if you're not moving well.
Imbalances or asymmetries in the body.
Sure.
And a lot of these changes are unconscious. We're not aware of them because our brains are mostly concerned with getting from A to B. Oh, you want me to sit at this desk for 8 hours to work? Okay, I'll do that. It's not aware of how we're doing that to get from A to B. And so if there are problems in your system, your brain finds these nice subtle ways to compensate for those problems. Oh, we need to get from A to B. And so I'm going to just make this little adjustment here, and now we can do that. And so, but unfortunately, your body doesn't go back to where it should have been. For instance, when you were 2 or 3 years old running around, right? These changes stay with us forever.
Yeah. They really do. And so we have to attack those. And oh, good, you've got a demonstration here. This is going to bring people to the YouTube channel to watch this. I love it. Go for it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to demonstrate. We talked to we've brought up back pain a couple of times, and so I want to take your listeners through a really easy test to understand a fundamental reason why they're having back pain.
Awesome.
And so this will show them what I'm really talking about. So here's the test. So the test is, I want you all to lie down on your back, on the floor or on your bed or whatever it is. So just lie down with your legs straight. And we're going to stay here for about 30 seconds. And what I want you to do, you can even put your hands underneath your low back if you want to. And you'll feel that arch in your back when you're lying down on the floor with your legs straight. And now we've been there for about 30 seconds. Now what I'd like you to do is just bend your knees so your feet are flat on the floor, or bend your knees so you're hugging your knees to your chest. And you'll notice that your back feels better in one of these two positions, either legs straight or knees bent to some degree. And I bet, Wendie, given that you've just recovered from back injury, that which position probably feels better for most people.
Definitely. Knees
which
bent.
One? Yes, exactly. 99% of the people out there will say, oh yeah, my back feels a lot better when my knees are bent. So the next part of this test is this. I want everyone now to stand up and listen for the next 2 or 3 minutes to this podcast. And if you stand up, you'll notice that what happens after about a minute or two, your knees start to lock backwards into a straight position. All right. This is an energy conservation move. Your brain is trying to save energy, and it turns off muscles. And now we're just standing on our joints. So we don't really have to use much muscular effort to do this. But if you're doing that, and if you're not doing that yet, go ahead and lock your knees back and just feel what I'm talking about. Now, just unlock your knees slightly, and you'll feel something just happen to your back. And if you're not sure, lock your knees one more time, and you'll notice that when your knees are locked, your back is arched more. Well, we just found out on the floor that your back doesn't feel as good when it's arched. It likes it better when it's flat, okay? And now we just found out that your normal habit of standing is to lock your knees if you're standing any longer than a minute or two for energy conservation matter. And also, if you're locking your knees standing, very good chances are that you're locking your knees when you're walking too. So every time you're locking your knees, you are causing your spine to arch more. And on a very fundamental way, all right, that's how your habit and how you're using your body is contributing to the pain in your back. So if you just start for the next 3 days, those of you with back pain, if you just start unlocking your knees when you stand and walk, you'll probably see a significant reduction in your back pain with that tip alone.
I love that. I mean, thank you. That's so simple. And I would imagine that most people have never thought about the fact that they lock their knees when they stand or much less when they walk. Like I'm just trying to picture that locked knees when they're walking. And yeah, I mean, that's something to really be, present about and be intentional about noticing.
Yeah. So the walking pattern that looks like a knee locking pattern is when you're walking and your foot comes in front of you and it lands, that's a knee locking pattern. So what's happening is that your body should be coming forward with that advancing foot.
Are you saying as far as like heel strike first?
No, not heel or forefoot. Just when your foot is moving forward, your whole body should be moving forward.
Right.
So that when you land on that foot, your body should be over your foot. And what's happening because of, thick heels and so forth, what's happening is people are walking with their leg striking in front of them with their body behind the foot.
Right.
That causes the knee to lock. That turns off all important hip and pelvic muscles, which help stabilize the back and the pelvis. And so it sets you up for failure.
Yeah, right. For sure.
So learning to unlock your knees when you're walking is just simply trying to get your body to move forward with the advancing foot with each step, rather than have your body lag behind that foot. And you won't believe how much back pain that will solve.
That's so good. And I have I'm a big walker and I'm a big fan of walking, and I have a walking program. And so this is going to be helpful for my listeners to hear. But you mentioned something and it caught my ear. I'm like, yep. You were talking about thick soled shoes or different shoes these days. And I think, how much is that playing a role in even the effect of how our body is operating because of the shoes that we're wearing? I mean, right? Like, I'm a woman, so, we tend to go more for style than for comfort. And I'm just curious if you've thought much about that, or if you've seen that with your patients that, oh, I can see that your shoes are the first thing that we need to get rid of.
Oh, of course.
All the time.
So, a really easy way to determine how much this is affecting your walking pattern is to go walk down your concrete sidewalk with your shoes on, and now walk down that concrete sidewalk in your bare feet. And you'll see just how much of a different gait pattern you have when you're walking with your bare feet versus when you're walking with your shoes. I can almost guarantee that if you walk more like you would in your bare feet, that would solve a lot of your aches and pains.
Yeah. And not that this is a promotion at all for barefoot shoes or anything like that, but is that something that you would definitely recommend?
Well, if you're inclined to go that route, by all means, go that route. So really, you don't have to have barefoot shoes if you simply allow your body to come forward with that advancing foot. That's really where the problem is. And that's where the shoes become a problem, is because they allow us to have a stronger heel strike than we would naturally if we weren't wearing shoes at all. And that sets up a whole ripple effect of biomechanical problems up the body.
Yeah, no, that is such a good word, and something I think that I know that I forget as well. And so I'm sure the listeners have maybe not thought of that or forget that as well. With your original Fixing You method, why don't you tell us a little bit about that method? Because you've written, what did you say, 5 books around that method, and it's now the 6 books now. What has been maybe, I mean, I'm sure they've all been well received, but has the back book been more popular than the knee? Or I'm just curious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the back pain book is by far the most popular because almost everyone suffers it.
Yeah.
And the reason why, to go back to our original discussion about, why back pain, we struggle in medicine for this and to solve this. And this is why, is because, again, we're looking at things from a component standpoint instead of this systems approach of analyzing gait and how that might be affecting the back. All sorts of tight or weak muscles that are happening because of that gait pattern that is affecting the back, and so that one by far is the most popular. And so the second most popular is the hip and knee pain book. A lot of people have problems with that. And then the third one, I think, is the neck pain and headaches book. That's a really popular one too.
Yeah.
Very misunderstood issue.
Yes.
and we can talk about any of that if you want to.
Yeah,
or other things.
we can. I've got some great exercises for the neck. I don't even know if you're familiar with Visibly Fit exercises, but I would love to show you, Rick, because it's all just using your body as your gym, like moving isometrics and some static contraction. Anyway, it's just so fun. I've got like this neck exercise where you push against your hands. And anyway, our necks are usually weak, right? Let's talk about that for a second, because most people don't realize, and the tech neck issue going on right now, I'm sure you see a lot of that, people bending their head, looking down all the time at their phone. Let's talk a little bit about the neck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So neck pain and headaches is significantly misunderstood. And so if we look at the body, just architecturally, we'll notice
go on
that,
YouTube, watch this. This is good, people.
we'll notice that a lot of our bones are these long bones, right? But we have two areas of our body with broad bones instead of long bones. One is the pelvis, which has our pelvic bones, which are broad and flat. The other area, and we all know that the pelvis is the center of function for our lower body and back mechanics. Mm-hmm. The second area is our shoulder blade. That's another broad, flat bone. So this also, it turns out, is the center of function for our neck and head system, all right, and arm system. So there are rules about how the shoulder blade should be resting and moving. And so many of those rules are often broken in people with chronic shoulder and neck pain. The biggest fault that I see most people have is that the shoulder blades are resting too low. And this often comes from the cue that we should be bringing our shoulder blades down and back into our opposite back pockets. Well, that's the opposite of correct shoulder blade function. And that's using the shoulder girdle system to generate posture. And that is not its job. If you look at the architecture, it rests on top of the rib cage. Mm-hmm. Why would that be involved with posture generation? Posture generation is actually achieved through the core. And so we can go over that. Yes. But an easy test to see whether your neck pain or headaches is actually coming from your shoulder girdle system is one I developed. I call it the armpit test, Wendie. So
okay, as long as it's not the arm sniff test.
Yeah, we've got enough complicated names, and I'm not going to call it the Olderman test. That's just too ego-driven. So here we go. So the easy thing, if you have neck pain, you need someone else to help you with this test. So you're going to stand there, and what you're going to do is you're going to turn your head left, turn your head right, look up, look down, and get a sense for your range of motion restriction and pain when you're doing this. Then you're going to have someone stand up behind you. They're going to put their arms in your armpits like this, and they're going to lift up your shoulder blade system about a half inch, maybe an inch tops, all right? And they're going to jiggle that around a little bit to make sure that you are relaxing your shoulders into their hands. That's key, because if you just continue to be tense, then your neck is still holding up your shoulder girdle system. Mm-hmm. So now that you've relaxed that, and it only takes maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute tops. So you jiggle that around, you get them to relax. And then what they do is, while your hands are still in there, they turn their head left, right, up and down again. If their range of motion is improved or their pain is reduced, it's telling you that your shoulder girdle system is the cause of your restriction in your neck. Mm, and now there's going to be a subset of people out there who have no response from this. And that's because they're in so much pain and so tense, they can't let their shoulder girdle system go. Boy, so for those people, that person would then remove their hands from the shoulder girdle system. And even though they're tense and didn't feel a change, most of those people would then say, oh my God, I feel my shoulder girdle system again. My neck is killing me now again. All right. And they didn't realize it wasn't killing them when the hands were there in the shoulder girdle system.
Interesting.
So that's further evidence that the shoulder girdle is the cause of pain. And I'll tell you, Wendie, probably, I'm not allowed to say 100%, but I would say 99.9% of all chronic neck pain and headaches, I don't care whether it's migraines, tension, whatever, is due to a shoulder girdle system problem rather than the neck bones itself or the head.
That's good.
And no one's looking there.
Yeah. And I think about how many of my clients just talk about the stress that they carry in their shoulders, right? And then obviously the neck, the headaches, that kind of thing. But yeah, I bet if they did that test, they would see that they're way off balance in the way they're carrying themselves. So that's really good and useful.
Do you work live with your clients?
Well, yeah. So I have a program where I do a full-on workouts doing my isometrics and moving isometric program, Visibly Fit. Yeah, but it's all through Zoom. Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I tell you,
but
it's
not
such an easy test.
Yeah.
Why don't you should take your neck pain, do a neck pain client workout and start with this armpit test.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And help them test themselves and understand why they're having pain.
I love it.
So,
that's a great idea. Thank you.
I just want to address this feeling of pain. This is common. Most people with neck pain will say, oh, it's killing me right there. So what is that? It's not really the trapezius. What's deep to the trapezius? It's called the levator scapula. So we have large muscles that are supposed to control our shoulder girdle system. And deep to those is our smaller muscles. And this is the way it works generally throughout the body. One of the muscles in the shoulder girdle system is called the levator scapula. And it starts from the shoulder corner of the shoulder blade here and inserts into C1 through 4. Its job, levator scapula, is to elevate the scapula. So when everything is pulling down, that's the sole guy that's left, this little pinky muscle, to hold the whole system up. And so that's why we get this feeling
it's
that
no wonder it's so tight. Yeah.
Right. And so it's supposed to elevate. So our brain says, oh, you're trying to lift up your shoulders. And that hurts. And so it equates that lifting of the shoulders with the source of pain. Well, the levator is trying to offset all the damage that's being done from depressing the shoulders. Mm-hmm. And so it's the only guy trying to lift. And that's why the levator scapula is hurting so much. And we have pain here where in our neck and head region is not because it's weak. It's because everything else isn't functioning correctly.
And so
what are posture strategy?
Right. That's very true, posture. So is that what you would tell your patients? Okay, let's start with your posture strategy and let's get that into a discipline first, right?
Oh, that's one of the big things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've developed a taping technique to fix the shoulder blade.
Taping. That's okay.
So we tape the shoulder blade into a better position.
Okay.
And that immediately removes all pain from the neck and head. It's a miracle for most people who suffer from chronic neck pain and headaches. And that serves a couple different purposes, Wendie. One is that it's teaching them, oh my God, it really is my shoulder blade. That is the problem. And it inspires them to say, I've got to fix this. Because if I fix this, I'm going to feel as good as when this tape is on.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting.
So that's one. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is that, I have like it's a posture support. It's like looks like a kind of a gun holster kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Is it kind of act like that a little bit where it
that posture, I know which one you're talking about. And that can function in the similar ways. I've used that and I still use that with some patients. So I use that. Here's the other reason I'll use something like that. Okay. So we just mentioned that one of the problems that's creating this whole shoulder girdle system is that we're using the shoulder blades, squeezing them back to the spine and putting them down in our back pockets to create posture. All right. And so a lot of people, when I say you can't do that anymore, they say, oh, but now I've got a slouchy posture. Well, that's their brain telling them that if their shoulders aren't here, anything less than this is slouching. But that's not slouching. No. That's just relaxed.
Right.
And so I'll use that posture brace to help them put their shoulders where they think they need their shoulders to be, but get them to turn off all the muscles that they're using to get there. So the posture brace will calm the system down by short-circuiting that posture strategy that they've been using for probably decades.
Sure. No, that's so good because I think, we either go big or don't do it at all, right? So it's like, okay, overcompensate. I'm going to be really standing up straight. So that's good. I love that. Can I take you through
the correct way to do posture?
Please do. Yes.
Okay, it's really easy.
All right.
And then we'll move on to that next question. I'm sorry. I just feel like while I've got you here,
hey,
let's
give
people a solution. So if you put one hand on the top of your chest and the other hand on your belly, and you take a deep breath in, you'll feel your ribcage rise.
Yeah.
And when you exhale, you'll feel it lower again.
Right.
So take another deep breath in, feel the ribcage rise. And this time when you exhale, you can exhale all the way, but don't let the ribcage lower all the way. It can lower 99% of the way, but not that last 1%.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that by keeping the ribcage up just a tad, your stomach muscles have now just become engaged ever so slightly, like maybe 5%. All right.
Yeah.
So these are your core muscles holding up your rib cage. And if you look at anatomy pictures online of the core muscles, they are massive. I mean, they're many layers deep, and we've got tons of them, right? When the body has architecture, so much architecture devoted to one area, we have to pay attention to that. And so that is how the core should be working, is to hold up the rib cage for you. Now, the goal, notice that how I got you into this, I didn't say contract your stomach.
Right.
If we contract our stomach, then we're just going to do this, right? And then that shuts down our breathing. But if we just simply lift the rib cage slightly, 5% of your core just starts to turn on, and that's all that's needed to hold you up, right? So that's neurologically, that will feed your core to become stronger naturally, rather than doing 1,000 sit-ups or crunches, which don't then translate to correct posture. So this is correct posture, strengthening correct posture just by doing it, and doing it in a relaxed way. So the second part of this then is to bring your arms down by your sides. Now roll around your shoulders to get them out of the equation. Your arms should be two dangling ropes resting by your arms or by your sides. And you'll notice that when you relax your shoulders and arms, you've just let go of your posture, your core. And the reason is because you've tied posture to shoulders being tense rather than your core activating. And so that's your homework, is to decouple
retrain your brain to retrain your body.
Yes.
Yeah, that is so good. Thank you, Rick. That's fantastic. I mean, these are like,
it's easy, isn't it?
It is easy. But yet it's, anything new feels hard in the beginning. So it's just different. And so once you get these disciplines in place, it's like, oh, that's not so hard. It's easy. It's like, yeah, this is like normal habits, right?
Can I comment on that for that's a brilliant comment. And so you're absolutely right. When you change fundamental patterns of how you're doing things, it will be difficult. And I want people to see why it's difficult. So if you put your fingers together, Wendie, while you're praying, right? Look down and see which thumb is on top. Is it your left or your right?
Right.
Your right one. Okay, now without looking at your hands, and everyone at home, please do this too.
Unless you're driving.
Unless you're driving. Unless you're driving a Tesla, then you can do your hands up. Okay, so now you've seen which thumb is on top. Yours is your right. We're gonna not look at your hands. We're gonna undo that, and now put them back together with the opposite thumb on top this time. That felt a little awkward, didn't it?
Yeah, but
a lot of people, and a lot of people watching this might look down at their hand to check to see whether they actually did it correctly. Now keep your hands like this, because your brain is giving you an alert right now that you're doing something different. Yeah. Right?
Feels a little awkward.
A little awkward. And now there's another part of your brain that's judging that difference as wrong. Oh, this is the wrong way to do it. Right? But you don't know whether it's wrong.
Right,
all you know truly is that it's different.
Right.
And so when people change their posture strategy or their walking patterns or how they're standing by unlocking their knees,
or their nutrition habits, Rick,
or their nutrition habits, all sorts of things. Yeah. So understand that your brain is going to send you these alerts that say, hey, you're changing something big that you've told me not to do for the whole life, and now you're changing it. I got to tell you so. And you've got to separate that from that judgment side of your brain that's saying it's wrong.
Right.
Your brain doesn't know it's wrong. It just knows that it's different. And when your pain goes down, then your brain's going to say, oh, that was a good change. Now I'm going to do that more, just like nutrition, right?
Exactly.
You get those results and it feeds you to do more. And that's really how the brain works with changing how you're using your body.
That's so good. Well, speaking of nutrition, since I threw that in there, and Visibly Fit is all about, eating well, more whole food, plant-based lifestyle and that kind of thing. But there are probably people that come to you that may not be in the best of shape. And so as far as how they're fueling their body and taking care of their body. So that plays a big role, of course, on how they're walking and their posture and all of that as well. And so it's important to make sure that you're stacking healthy habits so that your spine can stack appropriately and that kind of thing as well, right?
Absolutely. In fact, you're touching on my overriding theory of why we have chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I call it the pillar theory. So we all have this critical threshold above which we have pain. Some people's are high, some people's low. It doesn't really matter. So really our goal is to get us as low below that critical threshold as possible. So we have wiggle room in our lives to do things and enjoy it without suffering. But many people are right up here. So the things that are pushing people up to that critical threshold, there's three pillars of issues that I've found that I think are happening. One are musculoskeletal issues, which is what you and I are talking about right now. The second is dietary allergens or mold issues, things that you just mentioned. That, because your body can have an inflammatory response to that, which then cause neurological tension and patterns throughout your body. And then the third is psychological, emotional, or spiritual issues that then also cause tension and patterns in your body. So everyone's a different mix of these three things. And this is why you see books all over the place that all ascribe to, oh, this is what solves pain and this is what solves, and it's always different information. But if you really break it all down, it falls into these three patterns of issues, typically: musculoskeletal, emotional, and dietary issues.
Right. Right. And none of us have mastered them all. We won't master them till the day we leave this earth, I'm sure. But being aware and being present and noticing and then taking action steps to do something about it is how you can correct and start to live a healthier life. And so I just love what you're doing. Thank you, Rick. I mentioned that I would share this just because my audience is more faith-based. You were raised in a Christian household, and that's fantastic. I know you've kind of branched out and you're in a different space right now, and that's okay. I just want to make it clear to my audience because information is information, and it's so important that we are going to experts like yourself to get the right healing and the right methodology that will really help to heal our bodies. And so I thank you. You don't have to elaborate or go into any of that, but I wanted to make that aware to my listeners. On a little side fun note, and I would love to keep you here because, man, you are just full of information, and I love this interview. But on just kind of a fun side note, because I don't know you that well, I've just kind of pretty much met you and been on your website and stuff. But what does Rick like to do to have fun, to stay healthy and stay fit? Are there some kind of sports that you play, or what? Give me kind of a fun fact about Rick.
Well, I work out during the week, and I have my own little schedule that I do, and I like to run. And right now, Wendie, I'm in the middle of changing how I run because I'm interested in running more long distance. And the way I run, it's terrible form. And it only allows me to run short distance right now. And I've known for years I need to change this.
So more like sprinter style?
It's a heel strike running pattern. And what that's doing is putting lots of stress in my back.
That's me. I'm a heel strike.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And my goal, I want to be able to run marathons, ultra marathons.
Good for you.
And so that I can't do that.
Yeah.
Getting there the way I've been doing things. So folks, you're not the only one who needs to change things. Yeah. I'm changing things. That's Wendie's changing things. We all need to change things to improve our lives. And this is what I'm doing for myself right now.
No, that is so honest. And I love that because when people think they've got it all together, even practitioners, and that's when there's tends to be something that you stumble on and fall on. And so, we're constantly growing and evolving and getting better in our walk and in our just our health and our well-being. So thanks for sharing that with us. And I can't wait to hear when you are running those marathons and those ultra marathons. That'd be fun to see. So thank you for tuning in. And those of you that are listening or watching, find out more at rickalderman.com. And it's spelled like older man. I'm just going to say that. So it's Rick, but he's not an older man. But it's rickalderman.com. And then that's where you can get all of your resources there. And also do you have any you've got a couple giveaways, right? Like
I've got some free stuff on
tips.
there. Yeah. And then all my home programs are there. My practitioner's course is there. If you want to read chapters from my upcoming book, Solving the Pain Puzzle, you can do that. And I've recorded them audio, so you can listen to me reading them, and you can pre-order that book. My goal is to become the first physical therapist on the New York Times bestsellers list.
Make it so.
I'd love it.
Yes.
I'd love it if you all can help me with that.
Oh, please.
And then
yes.
If you end up buying anything that I have, if you type in Fixing You, all one word, you can get 20% off of anything that you end up purchasing.
Oh, thank you so much. So Fixing You will give you 20% off. And if you're from Texas, it's not fixin', it's fixing, Fixing.
Get that G in there.
Fixing You. And you'll get your discount. So thank you so much for being so gracious. And we'll catch you next time for another interview, possibly on Visibly Fit.
Thank you, Wendie.
All right. Thanks. Take care. All right. Well, that was a great interview with Rick Olderman. And I believe that you will fully be blessed by that interview. And that when you put some of those practical steps into place and start to just be intentional about paying attention to your body and what's happening and where the tension is and where maybe your posture is over pronounced and it's not really a good posture at all, or if you're sitting too much, and things that you can do and how you're striking the ground when you're walking, or you're locking your knees. Doing the simple test where you're lying down that Rick mentioned would be very beneficial. I'm going to do it myself. I hope you do it as well. And go to his website. Again, it's rickalderman.com and olderman.com. And you can get 20% off by going to putting Fixing You in the promo code thing there. And yeah, so thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Visibly Fit. Y'all know too, you can get my Visibly Fit exercises, which are using your body as your gym, if you go to wendiepett.com. And also that's part of the 7-week Visibly Fit program. So if you want to check that out, it's getvisiblyfit.com. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Always love spending this time with you. We will catch you same time, same place next week. Be blessed. Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing, not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a Visibly Fit day.